Cannot wait for Hasan to react to that intro Lamau. Big-bodied, small-headed. Phil roasting Hasan is hilarious. I skipped the intro. No, we watched it earlier. We watched it earlier because I saw the shorter version of this because he released it as a short. Catching strays, dude.
Federal
Philly D. Thumbo
questioned Hasan Piker at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, and I don't care if you love him, you detest him, you don't know who the hell this
we
big
saw. Okay, we saw
that everything was going to go smoothly since he was accepted into the government's global entry program.
This is a longer. It's a longer piece about it. Okay.
The actions of the U.S.
Some goober called in today to get Sam to talk to Lonerbox so we can refute what Jeremy Scale says. I wish I was kidding. This is what I mean. This is the intersection of f***ing drama and like real journalism. That is fucking insane, dude. That is insane. That was unironically my wake-up moment. Old heads know that the reason why I pulled out of like the toxicity of debate spaces wasn't because I was bad at it, okay? Which I readily admit, I'm not the best debater, right? But the reason why I pulled out of the debate spaces was specifically because when I was having a conversation with Ryan Grimm on a book that he wrote about the progressive movement within the Democratic Party. I believe that was what it was about. And chatters in my community because at that time I was like collaborating with Destiny a lot. And chatters, like crossover chatters, were coming in to try and debate Ryan Grimm in an informational setting. That was insane. It's like you're a random online commentator. This person is a primary source on the issue that he's speaking on. He is incredibly well read on this. He's a profiled journalist. The idea that you are going to get Lonerbox to debate Jeremy Scahill, an award-winning investigative reporter that has poured his entire life into covering issues in the Middle East, like spent most of his adult life doing this. The idea that like some random YouTuber is going to go in and debate this person is ridiculous. It's almost as ridiculous as Sex Pestiny. It's almost, was this the one?
I gotta skip that.
Yeah, this is new. This is when Ryan was at my house recently. I'm talking all the way back in like 2018. I actually think this is the other way around. Your disagreement with Ethan is based on his Zionism. He cloaks it in personal drama so he can fool his parasocial fans into thinking you are attacking him, and therefore the issues you support are also bad. He is not fighting with you because you guys don't get along personally. He's fighting with you because of his Zionism. I think his Zionism contributes to it. But if you think that it's not because of his own personal distaste for me, come on, dude. I think he is not intelligent and well thought out enough. I don't think he's intelligent enough to recognize that he's like being a soldier for Hasbara. Anyway, it's certainly both, but I think it's more so his personal distaste. His personal distaste of being, his personal distaste of feeling like a fool. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Ethan. Who cares? Let's continue.
Government. With what just happened, you have him claiming that his detention and interrogation were not random. Hasan going public and saying that he was questioned about his political views, including whether he supports Trump and whether he's connected to Hamas or affiliated groups in the region, and ultimately accusing the administration of trying to silence dissent with intimidation. Right. And one of the things that we need to note here, because we're talking about someone trying to enter the country, we've seen a number of instances, is that Hasan was born in New Jersey and he's a U.S. citizen. And he had him saying here that he was coming back into the country on Sunday after traveling to France with his family to celebrate Mother's Day. And with coming back to the country, he had hopes, though not expectations, that everything was going to go smoothly since he was accepted into the government's global entry program, which normally speeds up security checks for pre-approved low-risk travelers returning to the States. But instead, he said what happened was that he was stopped for additional questioning and saying that it wasn't that bad, but that it was a very strange experience overall. With Hasan then later expanding on the experience in detail on his stream.
They knew who I was, and they were ready to receive me. Let's just say. And it wasn't a very warm welcome. I get to the global entry line and they're processing everybody expeditiously. You walk up, boom. You walk up, immediately they take your photo of your face and you walk in. It gets to me. Take a photo, boom, walk in. Instantly. The Customs and Border Patrol agent goes, "Step aside, sir."
Right, and from there, Hasan says that he was taken to a detention area to wait, and saying that the others that he saw there, it included terrified families and an old lady in a wheelchair, and that none of those that he spoke to were U.S. citizens. And then eventually being called in for questioning. And with that, you had Hasan then describing the conversation as surprisingly cordial, but also claiming that the feeling was kind of undermined by the fact that the entire process is supposed to be intimidating. But you also had him saying that he wanted to see exactly how far CBP was going to go, and noting that he was in a position of privilege to be able to do so. And so with that, saying rather than pleading the fifth as maybe would normally be a good idea, he was very candid about some things, including his views on Donald Trump.
There were definitely areas where I was very revealing about my position, knowing full well that they know exactly what they're looking for. I saw no reason to hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment. I don't like Trump.
With Hasan there saying that the interrogators seemed sympathetic, and he also noted that the agent identified himself as Iraqi, which Hasan said might have been part of it, and saying he might have lucked out in that regard. But that said, when he asked why he was being detained, the agent reportedly told Hasan that it was routine. Hasan then claiming that rather than questions about Trump, there were Israel.
They're asking me about Trump. They're asking me about like Hamas, and he kept saying stuff. He kept saying stuff like, do you like Hamas? Like, do you support Hamas? Do you think Hamas is a resistance group? I kept saying a couple different things. One, in terms of like Israel and all the wars, I was like, I'm on the side of civilians. I want the endless to end. I am a pacifist. I want wars to end. I just kept repeating that over and over again. Every single time he asked me a question, I just kept repeating that. And every single time he asked me a question, a leading question about Hamas, I kept saying, the United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. The United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization.
And from there, you had Hasan saying that the questions went from being about his views to asking if he had any contact or involvement with Hamas as well as the Houthis.
Why not record your interview with them and make bite-sized clips on TikTok? Could have made $500K to donate to the PCRF. Okay.
Or Hezbollah.
Straight up. That's literally what this conversation was about. And it's not even a joke. Like they straight up tried to get something out of me that that I think they could use to basically detain me permanently, which is insane, because there is no direct connection or direct involvement.
But ultimately, with all that, while Hasan speculated they were looking for a reason to hold him, he said, what it was really all about was intimidation.
I think they did it because they know who the I am, and they wanted to put the fear of God into me. Obviously, the reason for why they're doing that is, I think, to try to create an environment of fear, to try to get people like myself, or at least like others that would be in my shoes that don't have that same level of security, to shut them up. And for me, I'm going to use the privilege that I have in that moment to try and see what they're doing. Okay? Because every single thing that they ask me, trying to get me to say something like, oh, I support Hamas or whatever, is literally not allowed. Like, they are not. What do you mean? Like, why is this denying me entry into the country of my birth? Like, this is my birthright. I'm an American citizen. You can't just stop me at the border and be like, what's your opinion on Donald Trump? You're not allowed to enter the nation. The goal here is to put fear into people's hearts, to have a chilling effect on speech, that like the government is unafraid of intimidating. Do you think Al-Qaeda and the Taliban are based? No, I do not. In illegal ways, okay, the government is now officially willing and able to intimidate you for speech, for your speech. That is a direct violation of the First Amendment.
Now, with all of that said, on the other side, you had officials denying that Hasan was targeted over his beliefs during what they called a routine and lawful inspection, with notably DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin accusing the streamer of, quote, lying for likes, and going on to say, claims that his political beliefs triggered the inspection are baseless. Our CBP officers are following the law, not agendas. And adding, upon entering the country, this individual was referred for further inspection, a routine lawful process that occurs daily and can apply for any traveler. Once his inspection was complete, he was promptly released. Though then you had Hasan responding to the Trump administration's defense in a statement to NBC saying, what part of a lawful routine inspection requires DHS to question me about my political views, my opinions on Donald Trump, and my stance on Israel and Palestine? Which, were thoughts and questions with people like Alex Peter, for example, known as Lolo, who's an attorney who's popular online, and he wrote, DHS flagging and detaining one of the US's largest left-wing voices for their political opinions, while the Trump admin suggests they might suspend habeas corpus, does not portend well for the future. But then also Hasan's uncle, the co-founder of the Young Turks, where Hasan briefly worked, York also chiming in, saying border agents detaining and interrogating Hasan proves two things. They are targeting U.S. citizens as well. And adding, they asked him about his policy positions on Israel and Trump. This is a frontal attack on freedom of speech. This is when you show if you have principles or not. But ultimately, with all this, again, just to reiterate, I don't care if you love or you hate Hasan Piker, especially because it seems like this is not an outlier in a bubble situation. We started seeing claims and stories pop up from people that were from outside the country visiting the U.S., getting detained, questioned, deported. And we've talked about a number of those troubling situations, but also like with what happened with Hasan, it happened as we're seeing an increase in reports from people about U.S. citizens being detained.
Yeah, I heard about this. Oxford Union Standing Committee could face criminal liability amid ongoing counterterror investigation. I know. This police have been conducting inquiries since the union's hosting of a debate titled "This House Believes that Israel's an apartheid state responsible for genocide" last term. They're fucking freaks in the UK. Do you understand? They're absolute fucking freaks. Now, I think that this could potentially be the reason why they're not releasing my speech. Ironically enough, I did actually talk about this, like specifically this kind of government enforcement over people saying true things and how ridiculous that is and how that actually leans into creating more anti-Semitic tendencies amongst the broader population, how dangerous that is. But yeah, I saw Kit Starver's last speech. I saw pieces of it where he said we're becoming a nation of strangers.
Detained at the border and at airports. And we're also seeing it as just socially, we're seeing an escalation. With situations popping up like big MAGA Republican accounts calling on Pam Bondi to arrest Aaron Parnas reporting news. There appears to be an escalation happening, and if you don't care about it because there's no like perfect victim for you, there's not gonna be. And unfortunately, as history has shown us time and time again, when this is allowed to happen, uncontested, eventually you and or the people that you love and you care about may find yourselves in the crosshairs. It's just a question of where it lands on the range of harassing to chill free speech to the incredibly scary, darker shit. But for now, that is the news, and then separately my opinion. And in the meantime, as we wait to see how everything plays out, I'd love to know your thoughts in those comments down below. And then I've got more news for you in just 60 seconds. But first, when was the last—
Yeah. I mean, dude, Philly D is ringing the alarm bells on this shit. Cannot wait for Hasan to react to that intro Lamau. Big-bodied, small-headed. Phil roasting Hasan is hilarious. I skipped the intro. No, we watched it earlier. We watched it earlier because I saw the shorter version of this because he released it as a short. Catching strays, dude.
Small-headed bastard who every picture it looks like he wants to make out with himself is. But the situation and this news, at the very least, it should make